Hello. So it's been almost a year since I've uploaded anything. I'm sorry about that. The reason specifically is that my next video, a Dark Souls analysis, is taking just a bit longer than expected. I mean, Christ, I'm on 20 pages and the script still isn't done. So in the meantime, I thought I would make a video talking about my experience with the Resident Evil 8 demo. And I didn't know that the full game was coming out this week. Anyway, welcome to Demo Rush. Although I don't mention it much because Silent Hill's my preferred franchise, most of the time, Resident Evil is my second favorite horror game series of all time. In fact, once a year, I always make sure to come back to the Resident Evil remake on PC because I think it is a perfect Halloween game. Of course, it still has its cheesy moments, but its atmosphere is dripping with horror, even if you play as Jill Valentine with her extra inventory slots. Even if I know what's coming up, the game always manages to surprise me in one way or another. And yes, guys, I fucking love the tank controls. Okay, love is a strong word. That said, Resident Evil has taken a more modern approach recently, with Resident Evil 7 being in a first-person perspective, and the Resident Evil 2 remake being in a behind-the-shoulder third-person view similar to Resi 4, just with updated controls. Despite that, however, those games are absolutely terrifying even if they revel in their silliness occasionally. I mean, Jack Baker comes back to life so much in his first boss fight that you think you get used to it, but no. He shoots himself in the head and you'd think that would be the end of him, but then he returns when you just want a fucking shotgun. Help, IGN, give me an atrocious guy to save me. Resident Evil 2 had probably the most tense moment of all time for me when I was exiting this door and hello! This liquor and I had a standoff for what felt like ages, and let me tell you, I let out a massive sigh of relief once I left that hallway. But with Resident Evil 8, okay, right off the bat, I need to tell you I've not been excited for RE8 or RE-Village at all. When its announcement came out, I genuinely thought it was an Outlast game at first. And if you guys remember from my top 10 unpopular horror gaming opinions video, I don't have the highest thoughts about that series. Also, I'm gay as fuck, so Lady Dimitrescu's 9-foot-tall step-on-me energy didn't affect me whatsoever. However, I still went into the demo with a very open mindset, since just the trailer alone is not enough to judge whether a game is good or not. It's completely unfair to say a game is bad just by footage alone. Usually. Anyway, I played the Castle demo on PS4 as well as both of the demos on PC because, I need a new capture card. And here's my opinion about the Resident Evil 8 demo. Part 1. The good. I'll start with the good, as there is actually quite a bit of good things to say about the demo. First of all, Capcom has continued using the RE engine, the very same one used to make Resi 7, Resi 2 Remake, Devil May Cry 5, and what? Village is one of the best looking games on the engine and ran super well on my PC, making me wonder just how good Pragmata will look when it comes out in 2023. The majority of my playthrough while I was filming was at a constant 60 FPS. There was like 30 seconds where I had a few stutters, but it went back to normal shortly after, something I also experienced with Resi 7. The character models were sublime, possibly the second best after DMC5. Yeah, I'm sorry Resi 2, but you have to lose at something. The lighting for the most part was great, except for this weird flickering effect that pulled me right out of a cutscene. This was probably my fault for turning on volumetric lighting though, so I can't be too harsh. The village looked amazing, the snowy ground actually feeling cold and desolate. The castle was... I mean, it looks great, but compared to the village, it just isn't as good. They also continued the descriptions and the options menu from Resident Evil 2 Remake, and thank the Lord these are helpful. What is volumetric lighting, NVIDIA? What the fuck is it? Also, I might be hot for Chris turning into a werewolf, but you didn't hear that from me. However, we need to move on to the next section of the video, which isn't going to be everyone's favorite. Part 2. They're not so good. I can say without a doubt in my mind, Resident Evil 8 does not feel like a Resident Evil game. This isn't because they're trying something new, because that's obviously worked with the series before, see Resi 4, 7, and 2 make. But when I look at this game and play it, nothing screams Resident Evil besides the fact you play as Ethan. I can't entirely say this game feels like Outlast because that would be wrong, but it definitely feels like it veers in that direction. And worst of all, I didn't feel scared once. With Resi 2 Make, Mr. X terrified me by punching through the wall, and the molded in Resi 7 genuinely made me scared with how many bullets they took. But I didn't feel terrified once in Resi 8's demos, which is a shame since the gothic horror elements could have created a great atmosphere. The controls in this game are also kind of shit. Okay, not entirely. Shooting is fine and menuing is actually better than both Resi 7 and 2 Make in my opinion, but the camera. What is going on with the camera? The camera just doesn't feel slow, it feels like it's being dragged with a weight attached to it. I actually changed the speed on the PS4 demo and felt practically no difference. And let me just say, when your walking speed and camera speed aren't similar, it is vile and hard to fight enemies with. But that doesn't matter anyway, because the enemies are fucking bullet sponges. The story in Resident Evil 8 is also just very stock in my opinion. Guy loses wife and daughter's taken, so he goes to find her and ends up on wacky adventures. I'm not saying that Resident Evil has been entirely original, I mean zombies in a mansion has been done to death, but the umbrella aspect made it more unique and the whole connections part of RE7 continued that. I also didn't really care about the characters I came across in the first demo because they weren't developed enough and they all died as soon as they were introduced. The demos are also extremely short, with the first demo being around 27 minutes, mostly due to story stuff, and the second demo being, are you shitting me? Capcom had the guts to put out a demo that can last shorter than 11 minutes? 11 minutes is not long enough to tell a player what the game is like. If Capcom hadn't put out the dual demos, then people who only played the castle one would have just been like, so vampires? On top of this, you can really tell after playing both demos that Resident Evil 8 is trying to be like Resi 4. A village with monsters in it? Check. A castle with a recurring villain? Check. A merchant you can buy ammo and upgrades from? Check. Treasure you can sell to get more money? Check-rino. This is blatant selling off nostalgia, which obviously failed with Resident Evil 3 Make. Oh wow, that portmanteau actually worked. 3 Make was the point where everyone was tired of buying updated versions of older games. Resident Evil HD and Resident Evil 2 Remake were like treats you get on Halloween. They're awesome, but if you get too much, you get sick and die. Resident Evil 8 feels like a sneaky way to get 4 out to the public without calling it Resident Evil 4. Keep in mind though, this is only my opinion. I know there are many people out there that love Resident Evil 8, and even people that like 3 Make, and I don't want to take that experience away from them. Overall, I'm just a voice in the minority of people that don't like this demo. The game isn't offensive, it's just a game, interactive entertainment. However, Capcom did do something a bit sneaky. Plot twist. The disgusting. Now, I've played the Resident Evil 7, 2 Make, and 8 demos, and let me just say, Capcom really doesn't know how to handle their demos, but they do know how to be sneaky about it. See, Capcom originally made it so that you could only play the village and castle demos at a certain time, which made a lot of people quite upset. People have obligations like work and school and obviously can't make room to play the demos. Capcom later extended the time to play the dual demos, good on them, but they pulled off a dirty trick that they also pulled off with their Resident Evil 2 one-shot demo as well. You might have noticed that the only achievements are related to time played in the demos, going in 5-minute increments. Yeah, they're data mining you. Steam has a policy that you can't look at player information without the player's consent, one of the good things Valve has done with their platform. However, there is a loophole, and you might have seen this in other games where you can earn an achievement for time played. Capcom is basically using this to find out if they need to change anything by seeing how many people have earned what achievements. This is kind of gross, honestly. It is legal according to Valve's policy since it's a loophole, but it is still effectively data mining. They even know this since the 5-minute increment makes the data more accurate. Capcom just put out a survey like a normal company. With all that said, I personally wouldn't recommend the demo, but it's definitely not the worst thing I've ever played. Maybe my mind was holding bias and I just didn't know, but to me, the game doesn't feel at all like a horror game, the camera is bad, the length is terrible, and Capcom's scummy data mining just threw me off. I will give it a generous 3 out of 5 just because the RE engine still displays how powerful it can be with its graphical nature and how smooth it runs, as well as the fact the options menu still displays explanations, something new PC users will be very thankful for. Oh, and Chris. We're all horny for Chris. Thank you for watching, and I promise my next video will be Dark Souls. Hello everyone, I hope you like this pilot episode of Demo Rush. This is kind of like So I've Been Playing, but since all I've been playing recently is the Soulsborne series, I really haven't been able to do that. This might be a controversial first episode, but I really do hope you enjoyed it. I have more of these planned for Astral Ascent and Dinopunk, but I do want to get my Dark Souls video out before those just because it's been quite a long time since my last main video. I don't know if I'll continue So I've Been Playing, but I do want to since it's a fun series to do, and it seems to be quite popular if you know what I mean. Also, if you like this brand new spicy artwork used in this video, it was created by Donald Kirby, who some of you might recognize as the artist for Matt McMuscles and Super Best Friends Play, and maybe even some video game work as well. I highly suggest you check him out by clicking the links in the description. Anyways, I hope you had a good laugh, and if you did like the video, a thumbs up and a subscribe would be greatly appreciated, as well as clicking that bell so your cell phone can buzz each time I upload a video. Once a year. Anywho, I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.